Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
This is episode 74.
Yeah, we have Charlotte Malerich on.
She's a short story author, and she just has a new short story called Meat, which is going to be in a new book,
Among Animals, and we're actually giving away a copy of that.
I want a copy. I wish I could win this.
It's really cool. It's a collection of short stories, and they are themed around the environment, animals.
From Ashland Creek Press. So how can you win this book?
Well, you're going to have to follow or like both Which Side Podcast and Ashland Creek Press on either our Facebook or our Twitter. You don't have to do both. Doing both will help your chances of winning. If you have both. Also, you need to share and retweet a photo that we are going to provide, and you can find that at whichsidepodcast.com/Ashland Creek.
Or just follow the links when you go to whichsidepodcast.com.
Yeah. And when you post that photo, you just want to make sure that you include the hashtag WhичSideGiveaway, and that's all you have to do.
You know, besides that, there's a couple other consolation prizes that we're giving away.
Yes, we are going to be giving up some runner-up prizes. So on top of getting Among Animals, I just should say, the winner will also get a free year membership to the Which Side Podcast. And runner-up prizes will also be included as well.
And for memberships, we just concluded talking to a bunch of our interns, and we're going to have a bunch more bonus material coming up for the members, so you can be looking forward to that. But if you go to whichsidepodcast.com and click through the links, there's a bunch of other ways you can get chances to enter this giveaway.
It's really not that complicated. If you don't understand from just what I said right now, just go to our website. It explains it super simple. It's pretty much you follow us and you post. Or you follow us and you retweet.
Like, post.
Like, post.
Get a book.
It's
freaking awesome.
Get a book and a membership.
So check that out.
WhичSidePodcast.com.
April 6, 1968. Oakland police murdered Black Panther Bobby Hutton. Pulling these out of our Slingshot personal organizer. Get one.
Pick one up.
Pick one up. Hey guys. Hope you enjoy this one.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Hi, I'm Jordan.
Hi, Jordan. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Jeremy. Sorry, I'm just
Hi,
opening a candy cane.
It's not the right...
Not the right season.
Yeah, it's not the right season.
But it coats my throat, so it doesn't hurt after talking for like 5 hours.
It's true. I hear they used to use airheads to do that, too.
Yeah, it works. It works pretty good.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. How are you guys?
Doing well. Sorry, we're still just...
I'm fixing Jordan's microphone.
Here we go.
Sorry, his spider cage was all messed up.
Yeah, thank you. It's easier for him.
Sorry, we just ran into this room like right when we started, so we haven't...
We just had to set up everything really quick, so
yeah.
It's usually not like that, but we apologize.
Fair enough.
So I was reading...
I just ran back from a lunch, so I sympathize.
What did you have for lunch?
Oh, I went to Woodlands Bistro, which is one of the really good vegan places in DC, which recently changed its name, or at least since the last time I was there. It used to be Everlasting Life Cafe, and now it's called Woodlands, and it's really good food. They basically have American soul food kind of stuff. I think that they have some connection with the African Jewish group that I think Jamie was talking about on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly how they're affiliated, but the food is nonetheless really good, and it's a kind of a cool gathering place for people. So
would it be kind of like the soul food at VP2 in New York?
I've never been there.
It's delicious.
Good stuff.
It is. It is. I've never been to DC. What's the vegan scene like in DC?
So it's pretty good. There are not a whole lot of all vegan places. There, I can think of 3 maybe, but most places are pretty vegan friendly. So there's a lot of restaurants where they have their regular menu and then they have their vegan menu, or at least 3 or 4 vegan vegetarian options. So that makes things pretty comfortable. I definitely considered that because I was raised in New Jersey, and when I wanted to leave New Jersey, I was definitely looking for an area that would be vegan friendly, and DC definitely was that. It was one of the things that attracted me to it.
So when I take my family there in the next year, we're hoping to go in next year, what places should I have to go?
Sticky Fingers Bakery.
Sticky Fingers.
That's one place that you've got to go. If you go out into the Virginia area, which is closer to where I live, I would also check out Sunflower, which is a mostly Asian place, but I think they are all vegan except for some things might have honey in them.
We have a bakery around here. The only thing that isn't vegan is their chai. And that has the honey in it.
And they make a chai cake with it too.
Yeah, they make a chai cake. So anything that says chai, just avoid. But other than that, it's vegan. I hate that.
It always makes me mad. Because I love chai so much. I'm like, I really want to try that goddamn cake. So
it's a weird thing.
It is honey. Just honey. It seems like something that's so trivial, but
yeah, and chai can be made so easily without it.
Yeah,
it's not like baklava.
Exactly.
We do have a place here that makes it vegan.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay.
It is okay. I've had better. That's pretty rude. So is New Jersey? Is it not vegan friendly? You were saying that you wanted to move there to find something that's a little bit nicer.
I would say the part of New Jersey where I was living was not really vegan friendly. Kind of the suburbs of northern New Jersey. It's a lot of Italian food, lots of pizza, and I survived fine, but after a while, I wanted to kind of explore more of the country, aside from wanting to be in a more vegan-friendly area. So I ended up in DC.
I feel super spoiled. We have 3 vegan pizza chains. Not vegan pizza, 3 chains of pizza places that offer vegan cheese pizzas.
And sometimes that's fun to live off of, but not always.
Yeah, I have to say, I think I actually prefer just a pizza without cheese.
Sometimes me too. Like I don't know, vegan cheeses are great. It's just, when you went so long without them, like personally myself, it kind of just, sometimes you just don't want them on there.
I prefer it without, but my wife doesn't.
Yeah.
She always wants it with.
Yep.
So, got to make everyone happy. So how long have you been vegan?
It's a hard question to answer. I know I made the commitment to go vegan when I was 16, so that's like 15 years ago, getting close to 15. And during that time there were like lapses, and I was eating cage-free eggs for a little while. That makes me cringe when I think about now, but um, I was a vegetarian since the time I was 12, and then when I was 16, that's when I kind of found out about the egg and the dairy industry and decided I really needed to cut that other stuff out of my diet. So and I did, and then kind of slipped back into the egg thing for a while during college, and then been vegan ever since then. So
What made you slip back into eating eggs?
I think it was just I was convinced by the cage-free argument that there was no real harm in it, um, and then that made things easier as far as just finding stuff to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like now when I think about it, I think like, God, that was stupid. But it's the things that you do when you're sort of figuring all this stuff out now. And I'm sure 15 years from now, I'll think about stuff I do and be very disappointed in myself.
Oh, I think we all have those stories.
Yeah.
How are your, changing and making radical changes at such a young age? How is your family towards that?
There was definitely a fight when going vegetarian was no problem really. But then when I said I'm cutting out eggs and dairy, I remember my dad saying, "You're going to die," and that being a discussion that kind of, there was some shouting from my bedroom down the stairs at him and back and forth. But I think after that initial kind of blow up, he accepted it, and my mom was much more supportive. She kind of said, just tell me what you want me to buy at the store and I will buy it for you. We were also a family that never fell into those traditional roles where mom made dinner every day and we all sat down at the table together and ate whatever she had made. Everyone in my family kind of fended for themselves a little bit. And so it wasn't a real problem for me if I was already making my own lunches and dinners. So it wasn't, I didn't quite have the same obstacles that I think some of my other friends had, where their moms or whoever made dinner in their family really took it kind of as an insult or just an extra chore that their child was now putting on them. After so many years of happily eating whatever mom or dad had made.
How are they now towards it?
Well, so my family is very interesting. I have two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother, and then my parents. And now my younger brother is also vegan, and my mom is on her way. She's been a vegetarian for a very long time now. Dad still eats whatever, but because he's lived with my mom for so long and it's just easier to buy vegan and vegetarian groceries, he's basically eating vegetarian, if not vegan, most of the time.
Wow.
So it's kind of been nice to see the way that when you change one member of a family, it kind of there's ripple effects.
I'm not so
that.
lucky. I have 3 siblings and none of them are vegan.
Recently, I was able to get my mom to go vegetarian, though. So that's a win after 15 years of trying.
You say you. I think it was me.
I'm the one that made her watch the documentaries. Come on now.
I gave them to you.
But yeah, it's always great when we can have that family to definitely that family support for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's kind of similar. Like his older sister's vegan,
Yeah.
And so that helps too. So I was reading your blog and I noticed that you used to listen to the Vegan Freak.
I did. Yeah, they were definitely a big influence on me, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was actually great that I discovered them. And actually, because my younger brother, who had recently gone vegan at the time, he found them and said, "Hey, do you know about Vegan Freak Radio?" And I started listening, and they were a great influence on me just in analyzing veganism as a social movement and not just as a lifestyle choice. And kind of it gave me a lot more oomph to my commitment. And then they were also an influence on me politically, because then I was like, hey, these guys are anarchists. Like, what does that mean? And what's that all about? And then I started reading a lot more leftist literature after I had listened to them. So that was a really important kind of gateway into a larger radical world for me. Although I would have to say, looking back at my life, I was kind of always headed in this direction anyway. So. Are you guys familiar with them? Do you know?
I was a pretty avid listener. So
yeah, and I don't know where they went.
I think they broke up.
I've heard some stories, but I don't know anything for certain. So I hate spreading rumors that no one knows for sure.
You don't like gossip? I love it. We are vegan. But yeah, they were like one of the first. They definitely
influenced me to want to do this for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was so excited when Mary emailed me. Is that how she says her?
Yeah, Mari.
When she emailed, because I didn't know about you guys, and then I listened and I was like, oh, there's a vegan podcast that I can listen to. This is awesome. So I'm definitely excited about that.
So do you listen to any other vegan podcasts?
No, I don't. My podcast listening has sadly declined a lot and also skewed a lot more towards entertainment in recent years, I have to say. So
I'm the same way. I can't deny it.
Yeah. We'll have other vegan podcasts on, and they're like, "What are your favorites?" And just like to be honest, we try not to listen to others because we don't want to be like accused of.
We don't want to be like them.
Yeah,
we want to be our own. We
want to be unique, and we don't want to like be influenced in any way, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But, so what podcast do you listen to for entertainment, just for my personal sake? So see if I'm missing out on any.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so probably most recently, do you know Game of Thrones, the HBO series?
Yeah.
All right, so I've been watching that and then listening to The Night's Watch, which is probably the best podcast out there for recapping the episodes. Although I have to say, as much as it is just about entertainment value, they do get into some pretty interesting discussions about the questions that the show or the storyline raises. So there's I like to at least rationalize it for myself and say, like, there's a political aspect to it too, or there's some interesting and intellectual content to this. It's not solely about talking about like how awesome Jon Snow is.
I don't rationalize. I'm okay with entertainment for entertainment.
But at the same time, I love when people do break something down.
Yeah,
that maybe wasn't intended to be political, but they're like, they make it political. That always makes
coming.
It good.
Game of Thrones is coming back. Is it this weekend?
I think so. I think I think the new season's going to start really soon here. I
got to find somebody to share their HBO Go password with me so I can watch it. So if anyone's out there listening, send me an email.
They're talking.
Email me as well.
Send it us. We'll send it around.
The CEO of HBO actually said he wants people to share their Go passwords a while ago. Yeah.
Interesting. But I mean, that show does raise a lot of like important things. Like someone was
Like what to do with dragons.
Right.
Someone was saying that they want to see more, male nudity because they feel that the female nudity is like overpowering on it.
Yeah.
And so it raises the issues of like, just different things, gender issues, as well as sexuality issues.
That just reminded me. What was that movie Tatum was in? The Mel Stripper movie.
The Magic Mike.
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint. Like I went in watching it expecting lots of penises, and I'm like, where are these penises? Like really, it was an honest complaint. Like it's just
fair enough.
Yeah,
that seems like a fair criticism. Yeah,
because you can have a movie about male strippers.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it just doesn't.
What wasn't that the Demi Moore movie Striptease or something like that?
Ooh, which one was Demi Moore?
I don't know.
But there's that one showgirl one.
Yes, that might be what I'm trying to think of, but
which was just way too much over the top nudity, but only female. Mm-hmm. It just the double standard's ridiculous.
Right.
Here we are having a vegan anarchist show talking about nudity in Hollywood.
Issues that are brought up. That's what I'm saying. All I'm saying.
So what other podcast do you listen to?
I there is a BBC history podcast that I listen to sometimes. If someone good is on it.
Do you like history podcasts?
Do
you like history podcasts?
Yes, I like history, so I always enjoy it when someone kind of takes you through.
Have you listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History?
I have not. What's his name? Dan
Carlin.
He has a couple podcasts.
Yeah, he has a couple, but that one I would highly recommend it. He actually does a really good one with the breakdown of the Red Scare and goes into anarchism pretty in depth. I guess he would say he's more like a libertarian, but he doesn't put anarchism in a bad light at all either.
Is he Carlin with a C?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. He did a 4-part series on the Khans called The Wrath of the Khans. It was really good.
He did something about the whole Ukraine thing.
That's another podcast he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't the hardcore history, though.
Yeah, that's not the hardcore history.
Okay. Hardcore history.
I really like it. Another one that's really specific on history that I am a huge fan of, it's just called the China History Podcast, which is exactly what it is. It's all just Chinese history.
Oh, that's sweet.
But it's stuff that I was never taught in school, so it's a fascinating look and view on it.
We have a podcast coming to the collective pretty soon that weren't they going to be talking about?
They're talking about Indian history from a radical standpoint, the radical standpoint of Indian history. Yeah,
that'd be fun too.
It's pretty nice.
I'm really into story podcasts personally. I like I can't even think of
there's
so
Moth.
many though.
There's the Moth that's really good.
Moth's awesome.
There's Risk that's really good.
Risk is great.
There's a couple really good storytelling ones.
Speaking of storytelling, though,
yes,
we'll come full circle eventually.
Yeah. So you are a writer, and recently, I read Meat, and it actually reminded me a lot of my whole, just I guess vegetarian vegan conversion story, because I watched a cow give birth and they named it after me, and then they ended up slaughtering it, and so that's the gist of my story. But that's what ultimately made me go vegetarian. So I really connected to that story.
Mm-hmm. Why did they name the calf after you?
I was on an off track program in elementary school, and since I watched it give birth, and I was the only kid in the program at the time, they're like, well, we'll name it after you. If it's a girl, you can choose the name. If it's a boy, we can name it after you, something like that. And so I just chose to name it Jordan, and then a couple of years later, I went back and they told me what happened to it. So that's kind of what happened. I know it does kind of sound weird that I'd named it after myself, but I was in elementary school, so.
A very egotistical little Jordan.
I know, right? My calf.
Well, I'm always kind of amazed by how many people it doesn't turn vegan when they have an experience like that. I grew up in the suburbs in New Jersey. We didn't have food animals in our backyard, although someone kept chickens somewhere in the neighborhood. But, kids that grew up on farms and it never dawned on them, or they knew about it, but it didn't push them in a vegan or vegetarian direction. And that always kind of fascinates me. So the story itself, I think, was a concept that had been rolling around in my head, but then I read this little anecdote in a book called Raising Steaks by Betty Fusel that's about the beef industry, and a non-critical look at the beef industry. She's very positive, particularly towards the small farmers or kind of independent producers. And she told a story about a family in Vermont that was running their own slaughterhouse, and they were raising two male calves there, and they had kids, and the kids took care of the calves, and they named the calves, I think it was T-Bone and Brisket.
What?
And they kind of joked about this and said, well, this is what they're going to be, so this is what we named them. And
wow.
And it was told for laughs, and it just kind of stuck with me. And I ended up, I couldn't finish the book, but I wanted to kind of really explore that story and what that would mean for a family and for the children who are raising this animal, and to be constantly confronted every time they call that animal's name with the fact that this is the future we have planned for them, even though we're treating them kind of as a member of the family. So that's how I ended up writing Meat. And then thank goodness that somebody was interested in actually publishing it, because I kind of thought no one ever would want to read it besides maybe other vegans.
How does that process work of like actually getting something published?
Well, so the way that I do it is I look for markets kind of put out a call. We're looking for stories to go in this anthology or just to publish in a literary journal. And anybody who's out there who is a writer and trying to do this on your own, if you're writing short stories in particular, you're not going to be able to find an agent to represent a short story. But if you go to duotrope.com, that's DUOTROPE, it's a database of markets for writing, and you can search for markets for fiction, poetry, nonfiction. So I'm constantly checking in there, and you can use the database for free, although if you actually pay them $5 a month, you get a few more features. So I saw the call from Ashland Creek Press that they were looking for stories about the relationship between humans and other animals. And I liked the way that they had written it, that they said, look, don't send us a story that's all about hunting or eating animals unless it's an anti-war, in the same way that an anti-war story can be all about war.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I really did not expect them to accept it even then. But I thought that maybe they would take it. And then also, I sent it to an online literary journal in the UK, and they ended up publishing it as well, it's online, and the literary journal is called The Again, and it's number 11 in their series. So you can find it online as well if you just want to read my short story Meat. But if you're interested in reading the other short stories in the collection, you can get the book Among Animals from Ashland Creek.
We're actually going to be doing a giveaway with that book this week.
Enter to win the book Among Animals, which includes short story Meat, by going to
whichsidepodcast.com/Ashland Creek or whichsidepodcast.com and click through the links. It'll have the rules, and they are simple.
And that's pretty awesome. I just finished reading it all myself yesterday, and it's pretty good. There's some stories in there that are just shattering, and it's not a book to read if you want to laugh, but
yeah.
But if you really want to think about the way that humans interact with animals, it's a great read. I kind of binge read it yesterday because I wanted to make sure I had read everything before I talked to you all, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I highly recommend spending it and reading all of the story.
So besides your own, what were some other of the stories that you'd recommend, or do you not want to get into that?
It's definitely going to make me a bad guy to anyone I don't mention. Okay. But I do want to mention, in particular, Midge Raymond's story, The Ecstatic Cry, which is about a penguin researcher. And anyone who's seen March of the Penguins will kind of relate to it, I think. But I think it's a really well done mainstream story. And because I tend to skew towards speculative fiction, sci-fi, and fantasy in both what I read and what I write, it was kind of nice to read something that was totally realistic, but it took me out of my own everyday life and then also connected with me emotionally in a very strong way. So that story I thought was fantastic. And the last story, which is called Miriam's Lantern, is about the last passenger pigeon. And it's great just thinking about what it means to be the last of your kind.
That seems pretty deep.
Yeah, the first one that you were mentioning, you're familiar, obviously, probably with the Torres Trail, correct?
I am. I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with John and his work, mostly as a publisher, as the co-founder of Ashland Creek Press. So I know of it, but I haven't read it yet.
So what's the dirt on John as a publisher? I'm just kidding.
I have no good dirt. He was very nice and professional, and actually mostly I dealt with Midge, who was also very nice and professional.
I was going to say that Torres Trail is very it's about a penguin researcher as well, and it's a very good read. It'll help you kind of escape in a like-minded atmosphere. So I really like that book.
Getting more into fiction that I can relate to is something that I need to push myself into more, because I read almost strictly nonfiction, and it's kind of a bummer.
It can be. It really can. Do you read nonfiction as well as fiction?
I do. I try to alternate between fiction and nonfiction, although it probably ends up being more more on the fiction side than the nonfiction side. Partly, I think, because I can get through a fiction book faster. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just want to escape sometimes. I think I read an essay by a writer one time who's kind of answering the question about why we write. And I think he concluded at the end of the day, it's just easier to spend part of your life in a fictional world. And I totally relate to that.
Yeah. I mean,
especially when you don't like the world as it is. It's kind of nice to jump into somebody else's world, and if you can if you can relate to the values that are embraced in this fictional world, or at least by one or two of the characters, it's pretty nice.
Definitely. And
that's always been my hardest thing with a lot of fiction is getting that emotional grasp to it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I definitely like about Ashland Creek Press as well, is that they're definitely geared towards the more eco animal rights genre.
How has like the vegan animal rights community taken up to fiction as opposed to the straight, nonfiction statistical work that we always try to shove down our throats?
I don't know that I can answer that question, because I don't see a lot of literature, a lot of fiction that includes vegans or includes an animal rights viewpoint or even questioning. I've read some analysis of classic works that kind of try to argue that here you can find a little bit of wiggle room, or a little bit of questioning of species, and whether species should matter when you're considering your moral obligations to someone. I know Carol Adams talks a lot about Frankenstein, and kind of the way that book challenges the idea of who is a person, and that's kind of interesting, but it's not overt, so that can be kind of disappointing, right? If you're a vegan and you want to read a story where a vegan appears and they're not like the weird friend who's crazy. I think in like most mainstream literature and on TV, anytime you see a vegan character, they're usually portrayed as kind of a wacko, and who probably doesn't have a lot of good reasons for doing what they're doing, and is easily swayed to leaving veganism behind.
In fairness, I do know some of those.
They're definitely out there. I just want to see other vegans also.
The
guys,
non-weird
we're not all
vegans.
The what vegans?
The non-weird vegans.
I would like to embrace my weirdness a little bit.
We're weird. We are weird. We're a weird group of people, but I want the weird person to be the hero usually, and the straight-laced person to be the, if not the villain, at least the friend that gets forgotten halfway through the second act.
So when you're writing, you say that you do read some nonfiction as well.
I do.
Are you ever influenced by nonfiction in your writing, or is it mainly just? Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times, I specifically pick up a book of nonfiction because I want to read something in there, because it's research for something that I'm writing or trying to write, or I think it could possibly be the makings of a story. I'm also influenced by the fiction I read also, because I'll say, hey, it's interesting the way the author did that, and incorporate it into my work as well, sometimes unconsciously. So I mean, meat, for example, like I said, came out of trying to read that book about the beef industry.
So for prospecting authors and writers, what's your like typical when you want to write something, like what's your typical structure and how you go about getting to that point of a finished product?
I am notoriously bad for getting an idea and thinking that that's a short story. I can write that in 1,000 words, and then jumping into it and realizing this is a novella or a novel. And typically what I do is I will just jump in and start writing something from the beginning to the end. If I don't have the time to do that, then I like to create just a Word document for myself of ideas and random thoughts that I had about the story and maybe where it's going. I usually know what the ending is going to be, but I don't necessarily know how the characters are going to get there. So the exciting part for me, I think, is partly finding that out and how it all happens. When I'm writing something very long, I've discovered that having an outline or some more organized notes is vital. And I will be working on a novel and I'll have to have the manuscript open on my computer, but I also have to have my note sheet open in a separate document so that the random thoughts that come to me as I'm furiously writing one section is if I get a note, a thought about something I have to go back and change at the beginning or something that's going to come later, I have to have some place where I can dump that so that I don't keep thinking about that or stop myself in the middle of the section and go back. And that helps me a lot.
I've always had a huge admiration for writers because I can't do it. Like, I can't build a story. I can't build a character. I've tried just through school, and every time I landed on my face and failed miserably. Like I mean, I hear writers like you're saying, well, we have an outline and blah blah, and like it just way over my head. Like I don't get it. So I have a huge admiration. Yeah. Like I really do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, a lot of it just is also basing stuff on things that have actually happened to me or happened to somebody else or that I've observed. And a lot of times my characters are a combination of 2 or 3 people that I actually know. So I have a very specific vision of them in my head and the way they talk and the way they interact with one another.
Do they ever come to you later and be like, that was me?
Not yet. No one ever has. Although I think my mom one time asked me, I had written something where the mother in the story was not a nice person, and I think she had asked me sometime if that was based on anything she had done, but
was it?
It was not.
You can be honest with us.
So no one has ever correctly identified themselves in one of my stories.
Do you want to call someone out now?
No, I don't. I don't think I better.
I'd be afraid of everyone. Like if I did that and wrote anything, everyone would be like, "That's about me. You're an asshole." I'd be like, "Yeah, yep."
It's funny because I'm doing a collaborative project now with a friend, and we're doing a graphic novel, and so I'm writing it and he is doing all of the art, and he'll come and say, hey, I think this is how this character is going to look. And I noticed that one of the characters who's got to be the handsome man, and I keep saying, no, not that. And then he finally came in, and I was like, yeah, this guy's an attractive guy. And I realized that this is my boyfriend in the picture, and like the more as he was making him look more and more like this particular character, it was getting more and more the way I envisioned him. That was one of our high five moments when we finally figured that one out. So I think it'll be interesting when there are pictures that actually go with the words, whether people will recognize themselves.
Do you know of any young adult fiction that goes into animal rights or veganism?
Young adult fiction.
And if no, do you want to write some for my daughter?
I'm trying to think. So there was a steampunk novel that I read not too long ago called The Unnaturalists,
Mm-hmm.
and it's based on the idea of naturalists in the late 1800s, but then if there were magical creatures out there, so they're the unnaturalists, and these are the people that study them, and it has a really nice moral question to it, and the main character kind of goes from just seeing these creatures as things to be stuffed and put in a museum to things that actually are an important part of the ecosystem and need to be protected. But I can't think of anything that's really overtly about vegans or
no stories
or someone
about
that age kind of being a vegan. And it might be out there. I just don't know it because I don't read that much.
I want a story about some 12-year-olds that decided to join the ALF.
That would be awesome.
See, there you go. You got that. Now you write it, and then
Now
I'll give it to my daughter to read. So I want her to have positive role models.
Right.
You could do Band of Mercy. It doesn't have to be like ALF, right?
Just make up a name.
You can just make up exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Put the credo in there, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I've had a lot of ideas for stories, and I think sometimes I'll just like you said, I'll open up like a document and I'll just put all my ideas in it, and then it doesn't go anywhere from there. That's my issue. And I've even gotten like key plot points on some of these stories.
I'll have an idea, open up my computer, and be like, "Oh, Reddit," and forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my friends says, I was going to write today, but then I decided to read the whole internet.
Reddit doesn't help with that. So do you ever find yourself like having that writer's block where you have an idea and you can't progress from that point, or do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super frustrating, and I think I'm getting to know myself a little bit better now, whether I just need to power through it and it's one of those moments, or if I need to go and work on a different story, because this one's just not coming together. I have a story about poultry farming that I really, really, really would like to revise and finish, because I made it through the first draft, but it didn't quite cohere, and while it had some good elements to it, it needs another couple drafts, and I just don't know what to do with it now. So I kind of sadly open it up and look at it every couple weeks, and then realize I still don't know what to do with it and close it.
How many drafts does a story take?
I'm kind of always working on something. And if I get stuck on one thing, I always have something else to go to. And that might be working for me better.
That makes sense for sure.
How many drafts does a story usually take?
It just depends. I think, went through a pretty short number, maybe 4 altogether, because after you write something, you want to get feedback on it. You don't want to just send it out for publication and hope that you were brilliant and wrote a perfect story. So I usually have a few people read it. I have a couple of friends who are really good about that and also writers themselves. And then I also go to a writing group where we share and critique each other's work. So I try to get feedback on the first draft, rewrite it, and have other people look at it. So go through that at least once or twice, that process.
How does the writers group react to the radical nature of your writing?
So far it's been really great. I actually was in a different writers group for a while, and I had a bad experience with one of the members reacting badly to my politics. It wasn't about animal rights, but other stuff. So I ended up going to this other group where everyone is pretty cool, and they're folks who are, I don't necessarily want to say leftist, but knowledgeable about leftist issues. And the first meeting I went to, they actually talked about racism and sexism in someone's story and like how to handle writing about a culture, say, that you're not part of. Mm-hmm. And at that point I said, okay, I can be in this group. So they're pretty cool about realizing what I'm trying to do in the story, even though they might not necessarily agree with it. But I'm also feel pretty comfortable sharing stuff with them that has a radical tone to it. They're also good about calling me when something is too didactic. And that's a big problem, I think, for people who have a strong political point of view, who want to write fiction, is that you can't just make it mechanical and all work out in the end. And they burned down all the fur farms and everyone was happy. So it's really good to get feedback from people who don't necessarily share your point of view, but can kind of put themselves in the shoes of the average person reading the story, and how are they going to react to it.
So you said you had a run-in with him on your politics. So how do you align your politics nowadays? So
if I have to label myself, I usually say I'm a communist with anarchist tendencies.
We can fix that.
I say I'm a communist without a party. Partly because the folks that I do most organizing with are communists, and I've found them to be the most organized and reliable. So I basically function as one of them in what we're trying to do around the city. And by the way, I also find them to be the most rational and smartest and most willing to like sit down and have a conversation about animal rights with me, whereas other folks I've run into are just, you're crazy for caring about animals. So
a lot of anarchists can be assholes.
That's quite true.
Which is, I'm sure there are a lot of cool anarchists in the area too. I just haven't met them. They're a little harder to find because they're not. With communists, if you found one, you found them all.
Yeah, I will say. I will say communists do seem to be pretty well organized. Mm-hmm. But I think that's just because they don't always reject authoritarianism like anarchists do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the communists who I organize with are pretty committed to collective decision making, which it would be pretty hard for me to deal with them if they weren't interested in hearing what I thought.
Thank heaven it's not the McCarthy era, because they'd sure be scared that a bunch of communists are in DC. I know that Will Potter's from DC, I believe, right? I think so. Are you familiar with Will Potter and his writing? Green is the New Red.
I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yeah, you should definitely check out. He has a blog as well, and I know he's from the DC area. I'm not sure how his politics align, but I'd say
Didn't he just testify again recently?
Yeah, I think so. He's been working a lot on the ag-gag stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely a good contact to have in DC if you can get a hold of him. And yeah, I don't know.
And he has definite anarchist leanings.
I believe so. Yeah.
So what's your biggest drawback about anarchism that makes you be like, I'm going to step away? Is it the people or something about ideology or?
I think it's the commitment issue, and seeing things kind of like the Occupy movement kind of all crystallize, but then it fades away, and then the people kind of fade away, and it's hard to track them down again and say like, hey guys, capitalism still exists, we still need to be fighting something here. I know like the small defeats are very hard to take, and even the larger defeats are very hard to take, and it's easy to get demoralized. But what's frustrated me, I think, is that then I just see people kind of go off and do their own thing, and aren't committed to a long-term organizing effort. So that's probably what's frustrated me most. It's more of a practical issue than anything else.
That's a very fair criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
have
any
a response to it. Really.
Yeah, I don't
know
either.
how to fix it, but that's what it is. So, and I go back and forth a lot myself because I don't know what I am in some ways, and in some ways I think it doesn't matter, and in other ways I think it matters quite a bit.
I will say I think a lot of the younger generation that aligns with anarchist thought tends to be way more on the fringe of everything. Mm-hmm. So they, like way hardcore, like gutter punks or way, and so they scare a lot of, mainstream society. I think that I definitely don't think that helps.
Well, I also think that anarchists are less likely to be working a regular job and just have kind of stability in their lives, which to some extent I understand why they do it that way, and because it sucks to have a regular job, but it makes it very difficult to find them and to see them regularly and to get anything going. I mean, I think so much of organizing is just building very strong, trusting relationships with people. And if you're not showing up regularly, if you're not reliable, it's really hard to build those relationships.
I think a lot of that has to do with, even now, it's easier to align yourself with being a communist than an anarchist. Just like it's easier to say you're an agnostic or as compared to like an atheist. So I think there's a lot of people hiding that don't want to talk about their actual, political leanings, everything else like that. That's why, like, I make a concerted effort now to be like, no, I am an anarchist. Yes, I have a regular 40-hour-a-week job. Mm-hmm. my daughter asked me today, why are we the only ones that have a black flag on our house? Like, so I mean, I try to make a concerted effort of actually being that normal out there, anarchist.
And and I think like when you look at it's weird. It's weird to say, but you look at different sects of anarchism. I guess you could say like anarcho-syndicalists typically are more likely to have jobs too.
It's going to be union centered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because they focus on the syndicalism aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I totally get that, and I have no criticism. So anarchists, get your shit together.
For reals.
I mean, here's the other thing is that to a lot of regular working class people, the label anarchist doesn't mean a whole lot. I don't know that the label communist means a whole lot. They just care if you show up and, are there with them and not trying to dictate things and being supportive and being in solidarity. So I don't worry about it too much. I used to worry about it more, but I think I'm at peace right now.
Well, talk to us some more. We'll switch you to the good side.
There are definitely some good anarchists who've come around, and we'll see if they still keep coming around.
It does seem to be one of those things that people get very jaded with pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jaded. I won't lie. But I'm jaded about a lot of things.
Well, it's easy to get jaded, and I understand why people step away. I just want to make sure people step back also. And I have stepped away a lot of times in my life when things get a little bit too intense. So that's not it's not something that's specific to anarchists at all. Everybody needs a break sometimes.
Definitely.
That is definitely.
I think and that's something I've talked to people about. I think sometimes we need to celebrate our small victories because sometimes it just gets very like exhausting. It's like not always a big win, and so sometimes we'll push ourselves down, and that just doesn't help us feeling any more jaded and bitter than we already are. So
on that same line, I'm a big fan of organizing just to have those small victories, just to be able to pat yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to help reinforce and reinvigorate, kind of like, uplifting the troops in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you just need to be doing stuff that's not really confrontational at all with the system, but it does bring people together and kind of shows, hey, we're still here.
Vegan potlucks.
I was going to say
vegan potlucks, absolutely.
Vegan pie bakeries. Baking.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I won at the last anarchist vegan pie bake-off we had. Just to throw that out there.
Oh, what kind of pie did you make?
A grasshopper pie.
So is that mint and chocolate?
Yeah, so basically what it is, it was the coconut whipped cream with sweet and sour marshmallows melted down with a little bit of creme de menthe and creme de cocoa.
It was pretty good.
That's pretty much it. And then, yeah.
I was a judge, but I didn't even... I judged everyone fairly.
You judged me like an asshole.
I did judge you. Because I judged him like an asshole because I was worried that they were going to think I was biased. But you still won.
I did.
So
despite you.
Despite me. So, no hard feelings.
It's a really good, easy recipe, by the way.
It's funny that like all of our collective like get-togethers usually are centered around food, vegan ones especially.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny. We're vegans like food.
I've never seen vegans get together and not talk about food.
In some aspect. Did you hear this is vegan now? Oh my god.
Yeah. It's very true.
So do you have any new awesome vegan finds?
Oh gosh. Well, lately I've been eating these chocolate muffins from Whole Foods. It's like an obsession, but rice bean cakes. I think they're a Japanese Korean traditional food, but I've been enjoying those quite a bit.
Is it like the ones you steam?
Mochi?
Yes, it's a mochi, so it's got like a rice.
And it's like a red bean paste.
Yeah, the red bean
and
paste
then
side.
red
Okay.
bean paste inside. Yep. Yeah, those are delicious. I recommended those to a woman in line the other day.
I haven't had one of those in years.
I just found vegan oatmeal cream cookies at the dollar store.
Yes, you did.
It's pretty bad because you'll buy them out sometimes. I will.
You told me about. I did. I bought out a dollar store.
Sometimes you just have to. It's you find things that you haven't had in a long time. You just have to overdo it till you're sick.
I probably won't eat another one ever.
Yeah. It happens.
There was so much chemical in it. I don't even think it was actually baked. They were in no way, shape, or form healthy for you.
What, it was raw food, so
Probably.
that's good, right?
We'll put that spin on it.
Yeah. Vegan, raw vegan. All right.
So how can people get a hold of you and follow you on, I don't know, social media and all that fun jazz?
So you can find me at csmalerich.com. That's my website and my blog. And I have a Twitter at csmalerich if you want to contact me that way. And I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. So those are the main ways.
Awesome. We end every show saying "fuck, shit, damn." Would you mind saying it for us this week?
Sure. Fuck, shit, damn.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been great talking to you both.
We'll have them send you all the information as soon as this drops. So.
Sounds good, and I will definitely keep listening.
Oh, thank you very much.
This week you heard
Ital Tech Hyper Real.
Right now you're listening to
Lorne Sega Sunset.
And as always, El Comandantes, which side are you on?
Go to whichsidepodcast.com/Ashland Creek and you can enter to win the book Among Animals.
Yeah, all you have to do is follow us and Ashland Creek Press on either Facebook or Twitter, and then you just share the picture that's on that website and use the hashtag #WhичSideGiveaway, and you're entered to win.
There's a bunch of other ways you can get extra entries in to win this. Plus, you can win a year-long membership, a monthly membership. There's a whole bunch of extra prizes. So go to whichsidepodcast.com, follow the links, check it out, and share. Get a free book.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck.
Yeah, fuck shit
Fuck
damn.
shit damn.
Yeah,
Fuck shit damn.
fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.